Am I audible?
Good evening, ma'am. Yes.
Good evening. Okay. So, hello everyone. Good evening. I welcome you all for today evening's module. And this is one of the very important topics what we are going to understand in geriatric rehabilitation is about patient education and the self-management strategies. So, just by understanding these two words, what do you mean by patient education first, and why it is important?
Mostly patient education is important because
Patient education is yes. Okay. What is self-management? Anyone? So basically, patient education is something what we do when we speak to our patients about their condition and the talk what we give in order to make them understand the problem severity, to give them instruction what has to be followed, what has to be done, making them understand the pathophysiology of the condition, the severity of the condition, what things have to be done, and what care has to be taken. So that is patient education. Self management means how easily can you manage your own condition and what things have to be done so that they are more independent to manage the conditions and make sure that the condition is not getting worse. Okay. So, in this, we are going to understand about health literacy, chronic disease management, nutrition and wellness, and discussion about few conditions. So, health literacy. So, the word health literacy only means to give them education about their health conditions. Okay. So, always remember the patient only doesn't know about its own health. How will they take good care, right? Many of the patients I have seen when they go to their physicians or their doctors, the doctors just tell them that you have to do this, take this medicines, and you'll be okay. But they never sit and explain to the patient what is the problem, why it has to be done like this, why the medications have to be done, or what is the pathophysiology, and what things have to be taken care so that it doesn't happen later. So that is health literacy. It is a very important component of patient education which we have to consider and put inside your treatment strategy. If you're missing this, you're missing the very big chunk of treatment. If the patient doesn't know its own problem, they will never be able to treat it well. So, health literacy is all about experience. It's from the books, what you understand, the different classifications, the definitions, the treatment options, instructions, decisions, and knowledge what you have to give to the patient about their own condition. Good health literacy, good compliance with the treatment, better the prognosis of the treatment, and better self management with the treatment. Is everyone with me? Yes, no?
Yes.
Health literacy is defined as a degree to which individuals have a cognitive and social understanding, appropriately accessible, understand and use the health information and services to maintain a good health. Okay, so geriatric health it is very important to maintain health literacy because in young individuals or middle-aged people, they can easily get the information over, online platforms with talking to their colleagues. But in elderly individual, it is very difficult for them to understand such difficult words, to be updated with the online platforms, to see the information online. So it is always important for you to explain in a very simple language so that they cognitively understand this, they can understand the health information, and so that the good health is maintained. In geriatric health, there are a lot many components which has to be addressed and explained to the patient. First is about age-related metabolic disorder. Second is about impact of polypharmacy. So as we know, stress-induced changes in the gut microbiome, infectious diseases, treatment options. So I'll give an example. So if a person is coming to you for a problem of knee pain, but they have many comorbidities like heart problems, breathing difficulties, they have thyroid, they have diabetes. So every medicine has its own effect on exercises. So if you're not making them understand that these medications can have effect on exercises, or suddenly when they stop these medicines, or how their gut or how their body changes and posture is going to impact their overall geriatric health, they will not understand. So there are so many components what you have to link and make them understand. So many patients who have joint pain, they come and they tell we have joint pain, but they don't do the blood workup. So when you do the blood workup, you will understand that vitamin D3 deficiency is there. So because of that, also joint pain can happen. So try to correlate things, try to make them understand about each and every simple things which are related, are constructed to the disease, so that they easily understand and they can maintain the good health. So there are many increase in the individuals over 60 plus years of age, and there is also rise of prevalence of diseases such as chronic non-communicable diseases like hypertension, cancer, dementia, and others. This disease requires advocate care, often require continuous medications, routine medical examinations, and consultations. A contributing factors to these adverse results is a low health literacy, which is recognized as a social determinant of health. Health literacy is characterized as an individual's ability to access the condition, understand the condition, interpret the condition, apply the information and the guidelines for the prescriptions, consultations, and other health related services in different formats. It can be written, it can be spoken, or it can be digital over phones or Google or any other social platforms. Everyone is clear why it is important? Yes, no?
Yes.
So if the patient has a low health literacy, it is very difficult for them to manage the conditions. This was few years before. Nowadays, mostly all the old age people have phones, they have accessibility. So all the information is already found online. Sometimes this information can be positive, sometimes it is negative. So it is also important for you to make them understand that whatever information is there available on social media, not every information is applicable to them. Correct? Everyone clear? Any difficulties? It is related to personal knowledge and skills that is acquired over lifetime through daily experiences and social interactions. Limited health literacy in older adults can be emerged as a public health problem. It can lead to erroneous intake of prescribed medications or non-adherence to medication. Restricted access to the health services for routine exam, consultation, and inadequate management of non-communicable disease is also linked to increased mortality. Health literacy is an indicator of the good quality care of these long-term conditions and the management, so that they are committed to the long-term therapy and prolonged therapy. Consistent with the health literacy, it is associated with poor health and critical outcomes where medication adherence and self-management capacities are also very less. So it basically tells that if the information is not given properly, the patient will not adhere to the treatment. They will not have good self-management skills, and also it is very difficult for them to follow the treatment for a very long time. Good education, good compliance, good prognosis, low mortality and morbidity, and good management strategies. This is the most important thing what as a physiotherapist or occupational therapist has to be done. So, as a physio and occupational therapist, you should also have a knowledge of the medicine part and the surgery part also, so that you comprise everything together to deliver the same knowledge and information to the patients. Because nowadays, the different doctors don't have really good time to spend with the patient. So, very less doctors actually talk to the patients properly. Everyone clear? Is everyone with me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So there are few factors which influence the health literacy. One is age-related cognitive decline, physical limitations such as visual and hearing impairment, socioeconomic factors including the education level and income, cultural and linguistic background. So these factors can influence the health literacy, obviously. So if the cognitive ability is less, it is very difficult for them to understand. But some same thing you can make them understand through the help of the caregivers or the family members. Physical limitation, if the patient has visual or hearing impairment, you can always take a help of their family members and caregivers and give things in writing or in video format. Socioeconomic status, many of the patients who are living in rural areas, it is very difficult for them to access to the treatments, access to the information. So it is difficult. Also, socioeconomic status. People who are very less wages or their daily wage workers, it is difficult for them to go and speak to the doctors in big hospitals, and also don't have good accessibility to the conditions. If the income is less, obviously they cannot spend well on their condition. Cultural and linguistic backgrounds. Always remember, whatever patient education you are given, it should be in the language of the patient, what they understand. And some of the health patient education or self-management strategies can be against the culture. So usually what we tell our patients, please don't sit down, you have knee pain. But in some of the cultures, it is very important for them to sit down and pray to the God. So make sure that you come in the middle line to make them explain the importance and why it has to be done. Then what do you mean by the impact of low health literacy? If the health literacy is not given properly, there is always a poor disease management, increased risk of hospitalization, higher rates of mortality, and decreased quality of life. So any of these things which are not being properly followed can lead to all these problems and can make the patient's condition much more worse. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
So now what are the barriers to health literacy? So every barriers can be tackled properly if you want. First is understanding the complex medical terminologies. Always come at the level of the patient's understanding, their education level, their literacy level, their language, to make them understand every small details about the condition. Second, remembering of instructions and advice. If you feel the patient will forget, if they have they have some dementia problems or they are not able to recollect properly, you can always make videos. You can always give them in writing. Third, make the informed decision about their care. So some patients usually don't really give a proper consent to the treatment, or they don't give an informed decision, which makes it very difficult for them to follow the treatment. Older adults with visual impairments may struggle to read health information or navigate the healthcare facilities. For such patients, there are braille systems which are available. You can, if the patient is not able to hear well, you can give it in writing also in the language what they understand. Those with hearing impairments, it is very difficult for them to hear the verbal instructions, but you can always give in writing. And socioeconomic factors. So nowadays, there are different NGOs, there are government facilities which provide these healthcare information and patient healthcare information at very low cost. So nowadays, in your clinical setups, your OPDs, IPDs, you can always print informative infographics in the language which your patient population can understand, and you can stick it. So there are most common infographics which are available in the market for diabetes, diabetic care, hypertensive care, thyroid care, physical activity care, or arthritis care. So these are the most basic infographics which you can easily put in your clinic, IPDs, OPDs, in the most accessible language so that the patient can read those things. And nowadays, everyone has phone. So they can click that particular photograph and they can follow it. So every barrier has a solution, is that you have to decide what is the problem and go for it. Everyone clear with health literacy? Yes, no?
Yes.
Okay. So again, the strategies which I've already discussed. To simplify the health information, use clear and simple languages for communicating with older adults. Utilize the visual aids and multimedia. Use diagrams, videos, infographics to aid for better understanding. Engage family members and caregivers, where you can involve the family members for better communication. Assess the health literacy. It is very important for you to understand the patient's health literacy level, the education level, to come down to that level and make them understand. Train the healthcare staff. Provide training for health literacy to each and every staff member who is working in close contact with the patient. Create a health literacy friendly environment. Provide simple signs, provide clear health information, and always use visual aids. Everyone clear with the strategies? How you have to incorporate such health literacy in the patients and the treatment protocol?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So now we are going to go for the chronic disease management. I want everyone to at least name a few chronic diseases. What are chronic diseases?
diabetes, COPD,
Yes, COPD, diabetes, perfect.
congestive heart failure,
Congestive heart failure, amazing, very nice.
Hypertension.
Hypertension, very good.
Thyroid.
Thyroid, yes, perfect. Hyperthyroid, basically, hyper or hypo depends. Okay. Okay, very well. So, whatever things what you have mentioned are chronic diseases, which are also called as non-communicable diseases, NCDs. Okay, these conditions are very important to be managed because these conditions are majorly seen in older individuals. Okay, so first important thing for chronic disease management is first you have to ensure that the diagnosis is proper, the screening is proper, and the tests which are done should be perfect. Then is regular checkup. These conditions are not going to be easily treatable. They are not going to just come for a few months and go away. These conditions are going to stay for you with lifetime. So it is very important for you to see how you're managing that. So regular checkups, regular workshops, or regular test has to be done in order to see whether the disease is being managed or not. And treatment, the right treatment at right time has to be done. Quick follow-up with the doctors every 6 months or 3 months have to be done according to the condition. So these are the most important 3 lines or 3 pillars of chronic disease management. If you're following this properly and you're making the patient also understand to follow these things properly, the condition will not get worse and the patient will be very easily managed. So the most common 10 chronic conditions are hypertension, high cholesterol, obesity, arthritis, ischemic or coronary heart disease, diabetes, chronic kidney disease, heart failure, depression, Alzheimer's, dementia. These are the most common chronic diseases what we come across in older adults. As the global population continues to age, the prevalence of chronic illness among the elderly will keep rising. Chronic conditions like hypertension, diabetes, heart diseases, osteoarthritis significantly impact the health and the quality of life. Chronic illnesses are long-term health conditions that require ongoing medical management. These can lead to disability, reduced quality of life, and increased healthcare support and cost. The elderly population is particularly susceptible to the chronic diseases due to age-related changes in the body system, decrease in the organ function, reduced immunity, and higher likelihood of having multiple issues at the same time. Through the thorough evaluation and assessment, everything can be done on time-to-time basis. Good follow-up, good treatment option will make sure that these diseases are managed well and the prognosis doesn't worsen. Is everyone with me? Any difficulties till now?
no.
Okay. What are the key plans to make sure the chronic care is very good and strong? First is always detailed medication management and schedules. Always remember, many of the heart patients will have renal issues also. So it is a very big conflict which usually happens with such patients because the renal patient will want some heart medications to be stopped and some heart patients will want renal medications to be stopped. So whenever the patient has too many comorbidities at the same time, good combination of medicines have to be taken and have to be considered. It is not our domain, but it is very important for us to know about the medication list. Every medication has its own effect on exercises. If they are not taking medications and they are doing exercises, that can have a fatal result on the patient. Clear guidance on nutrition and exercises has to be done for healthy living. These chronic diseases usually happens because of age-related problems. Because of such conditions, there are few diet management and few diet strategies has to be done, and this has to be taken into consideration with the help of a nutritionist or a dietitian. Preventive care strategies such as vaccination, screenings, tests have to be done time to time in order to maintain the condition. Regular follow-up and adjustment has to be made according to the changes. Using the pill organizers to make sure that the medicines are properly lined up, morning, afternoon, and evening medications according to the days, what the doctors have told. Many old age people usually forget their medicines or they don't take on time. So these pill organizers will help them to know that this medicine has to be taken at this time because they can get confused because of so many medications. I had a patient who used to take 20 to 25 medicines at one time. Okay. So it is very difficult for them to understand. So these pill organizers, such alarms will help them to take the medications on time. Setting alarms, smartphone apps for reminders are very important. Conducting routine medications reviews from the primary care providers. Understanding each medication's purpose and the potential side effects. Technology use and physical activity for chronic conditions. The last one is the most important for us to be done. Okay. Everyone understood the points?
Yes.
These points have to be mentioned in health literacy or patient education. Again, this is not our part, but it is very important for them to educate about the same, because no one will sit with the patient and explain all these things. And if you are doing that, you are just making sure that the treatment is doing properly, physical activity is being done properly, and the patient is in safe hands. Imagine a patient who is a hypertensive patient and has not taken medication and has come to exercise for you. And you have forgotten to ask their history, and you have forgotten to ask to take the medications on time and the medication part. And suddenly the patient is doing exercises and their blood pressure shoots up. Obviously, it is fatal for the patient, right? So if you know that the patient is on such medications, it is very important for you to ask them priorly, have you taken the medications, yes or no? Okay. So if you do that priorly, it is very important. So you have to fit these things in the brain of the patient to take the medications on time and to follow the proper care for the chronic conditions. So the major part is physical activity. So patients who have chronic conditions or many comorbidities, as we had discussed yesterday only, the physical readiness questionnaire pre-health screening is important. After that, you have to put the patient into low risk, medium risk, or high risk. If it is low risk, you don't need a medical clearance. If it is medium and high risk, you have to take the medical clearance from the physician to start any exercise. You do a thorough evaluation and assessment, check what is the problem, and then only start prescribing the exercises according to Fitts principle. If you feel the patient has never exercised in their life, always start with basic physical activity, which is walking. Start with the walking, start increasing the physical activity, and then go to the structured exercise plan. Everyone clear? Yes, no?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Now we are going to go to our next part, which is about nutrition and wellness. Nutrition and wellness is a very important, is one of the important parts in old age individuals or geriatric population, because with the age they lose their appetite, which is very, again, food or the appetite is our fuel. If you're not giving fuel to our body, it will never work properly. And if you're not giving the good food at the correct time or food in appropriate quantity according to their condition, the condition can get worse, the person can feel more weak, and the patient will not able to do exercises. So process of aging is marked with a loss of appetite, which results in decreased food intake. With the aging, there's a decline in ability to digest the food, the appropriate amount, and the consequences can lead to unable meeting of the recommended nutrition requirement. This unintentional physiological reduction in the food intake with advancing age is called as anorexia. The physiological factors which heighten the process of anorexia includes sensory impairment, hormonal changes, changes in the gastrointestinal tract, and oral health. So which are the most common things why the food or the appetite has been lost? First, with the age, your sensory systems has reduction in the functions. You will unable to taste well. You will not be able to swallow properly because of swallowing muscle weakness. There will be constant gas and acidity issues, which will be there in the gastrointestinal system, or the teeth are not well properly made, or the gums are not strong in order to chew the food. So the hard food will not be eaten. They will always go for soups or salads or some kind of soft, food. Hormonal changes. If there are less hormones, obviously with the age, the growth hormone will reduce. When the growth hormone is less, again, you will not feel the satiety to eat the food. So these are the major changes which happens with the age, which has to be tackled properly so that the patient eats good food. The decline in the sensory functioning affects the food intake, which is most commonly seen in elderly population, and this can also lead to reduction in the quality of life. The impairment in the gustatory and olfactory factors alters the perception of the food among the aged population. Anosmia or reduced sense of smell is the most common thing which happens in the old age group, which is due to the changes in the olfactory epithelial set. So some patients also tell that I cannot sense smell, so that's why I don't like to eat food. So good smell, good presentation, good taste obviously will increase your hunger. If any of these things are missing, your hunger will be altered. Similarly, like hypogeusia or this reduced sense of taste is most prevalent in elderly population. This happens due to the decreased number and sensitivity of the papillae, taste buds, or the density on the tongue. The elders usually are at the high risk of developing nutritional deficiencies that can be either due to the low dietary intake or impairment in the observation or fully conversion of this into the active form. So many patients usually tell I am taking D3 for such a long amount of time. Still my D3 levels are less in the blood. Why it is happening? Because just taking D3 will not convert the D3 into the active form for absorption. So with the age, if you're not having good fats, not good having good fats or good carbs, your D3 will not get absorbed in your body. And if you're not having medications with the proper time or proper way, again the absorption will be reduced. D3 usually has to be having after the food, after a good fat food for a better absorption, because D3 is a fat soluble vitamin. Okay, so everything has to be checked, has to be made sure that done, so that these nutrition deficiencies are matched and the patient doesn't feel weak. So there are few oral factors which affect the nutritional status. One is xerostomia, where it is difficulty for chewing and swallowing. Then is dentation status, if their teeth or their gums are not in proper format. Sense of taste and smell, if anything is reduced, it is very difficult for them to take the food inside, and chewing ability is very less. So these are the most common factors which happen in order to reduce the nutritional status. Then other factors which influence the nutritional risk. So socially, some patients who are into depression, isolation, poverty, or dependence, sometimes if it is not given, food is not given on proper time, they will not be able to eat well. Psychological, if the patient is into dementia or depression, they usually forget to have food or they don't feel like having food, can also be one of the factors. Biological could be dry mouth, olfaction, renal diseases, dentition, taste, muscle weakness, or any gastrointestinal disorders. So all these factors have to be considered by the dietitian or the nutritionist to create a proper diet plan according to the patient's accessibility to the food, according to their taste, and according to the culture. Is everyone with me? Any difficulties?
Clear.
Okay. So there are many different deficiencies which happens. Specifically with old age, we have more of protein deficiency, micronutrient deficiency, vitamin deficiency. It usually happens with age. So every deficiency in our body has some symptom. So this is just an example where if there is vitamin C deficiency, the metabolism of the neurotransmitters is reduced. B complex can also reduce the metabolism of the neurotransmitters. Thiamine causes a loss of membrane potential. Pyridoxine decreases the GABA binding. Calcium decreases the nerve excitability and the bone absorption. Magnesium impairs the nucleochemical transmission. And zinc decreases but the vitamin B and folate absorption. So every micronutrients and vitamin has its own deficiency. If all these things are matched properly, the problems will automatically get covered. So again, every condition has its own diet and own modifications, which has to be understood by the physician and the dietitian. So with hypertension, we usually tell them to have, less salt diet so that the blood pressure is maintained properly. So low sodium diet is important. For osteopenia, we need good amount of calcium and D3 intake in our body. For cancers, we make sure that we have good micronutrients and multivitamins in our body so that it can improve your immunity. For type 2 diabetes, make sure that we have more fiber and less free sugar flowing in our body so that the insulin sensitivity keeps increasing and the patient diabetes doesn't get worse. Then for patients who have protein energy malnutrition, we need good nutrition supplements or additional protein powders or protein supplements so that their appetite is stimulant and the body becomes very strong. Again, this is just a fair example for your knowledge. This is not our domain, so always refer to a nutritionist or a dietitian whom you're working together for making sure that the old age care is more holistic and more better. Okay, but for this you should have knowledge about some nutrition parts so that you can obviously ask the patient to go to the nutritionist to do the proper diet chart. Again, these are food pyramids. Again, this is very important. Good hydration, good macronutrients and micronutrients should be available in our diet, and it has to be balanced. So 8 to 10 glasses of water. Again, in few patients where you know that patient who are heart condition patients or renal condition patient, where the water intake is reduced by the doctor, make sure that you follow that. Then cereals, whole meat foods or good carbs have to be taken in a proper format. Fruits and vegetables have to be done in a proper way to give more fiber. Milk has to be taken into the proper consideration. And with the age, what type of non-veg item has to be taken, has to be considered with the help of the nutritionist. Sweets, fats, cholesterol, high cholesterol food has to be taken into moderation. And all these multivitamins and multi-nutrients have to be taken in the format of a natural diet and also with the supplementation. Everyone clear?
Yes.
So we have understood about health literacy, which is the patient education part, why it is important, what are the factors which can lead to low health literacy, how you can improve the health literacy with few strategies. Then we understood about the chronic care, which are the most common chronic conditions, what we come across in our patients, which are the three pillars of chronic care, which has been discussed, and how are the different doctors or the different people in a medical facility can come together to work for the patient's care. Nutrition and wellness, which is very important because if you're not eating well, they will not be able to exercise, and how physical activity will help them to maintain the chronic condition and overall wellness. Clear? This was more of a theoretical part, but this is a very important part of patient education and self-management, which you have to treat and tell the patients appropriately. If they are maintaining all that things, the physical activity will be maintained, patient will be more independent, and patient will be more healthier and better. Clear?
Yeah, ma'am.
I hope I was clear with the today's topic. And if you have any doubts, you can definitely go back, read, and you can ask me then.
Thank